recently you wrote a paper with Dr. Robert Schoch, Dr. Saunders, and yourself. Is that right?
Yeah, William Saunders, a geomorphologist, and Robert, I call him Robert now, Robert Schoch, he's a geologist.
Okay. And you guys wrote a
background, I'm just an artist. I'm not a scientist. I just have a good eye for seeing structures and things on Mars. Being a painter and a sculptor, I know artwork when I see it. So that's my contribution.
Okay. And let me just fix this chair real quick. Okay. And so you guys wrote a paper. The three of you got together and you wrote a paper on one particular structure on Mars. And we have a little presentation we're going to go through. And for anybody listening or watching, this is the square on Mars. It's been doing the rounds on the internet. And George is going to take us through here. And let's see what we got here, George. Okay. Can you see the first slide? Hey guys, if you've been watching this podcast for a while, then you already know. I'm absolutely fascinated by the crop circle phenomenon. It's one of those mysteries that keeps pulling me in deeper the more I explore it. That's why I'm really excited about a collaboration between shapesofwisdom.com and Curious Dimension podcast. Shapes of Wisdom is a sanctuary for seekers of ancient knowledge and sacred symbolism. They've curated an inspiring collection of sacred geometry and esoteric art that aligns beautifully with the themes we often explore here on Curious Dimension. On their website, shapesofwisdom.com, you'll find thousands of different crop circle designs. Yes, thousands. Available on posters, t-shirts, jewelry, even coloring books. Whether you're into meditative art, symbolic meaning, or just want to surround yourself with something a little otherworldly, it's an amazing resource. Shapes of Wisdom and Curious Dimension have come up with 4 different t-shirt designs that invite you to explore the unknown and wear your curiosity proudly. And as a special thank you to our listeners, you can get 15% off your Curious Dimension t-shirts and Shapes of Wisdom apparel clothing purchases by using the promo code Curious1 at checkout. That's CURIOUS1 at checkout. Plus, if you're into digital art or want access to some of the most stunning crop circle visuals, use promo code Curious2 for 40% off the crop circle collections and big picture digital files available through the Curious Dimension link on shapesofwisdom.com. I'll drop all the links and codes in the description below so you don't miss a thing. So if you're drawn to sacred geometry, ancient symbols, or just want to wear your curiosity, go check them out. Again, that's shapesofwisdom.com. Now let's dive back into today's episode.
Yes, I do. I see that.
Okay, so why don't you take us through here? This is the square on Mars. Can you tell us where this is and what do you want to say to get us started here?
Yeah, this is the square on Mars that NASA took. This is a Mars Global Surveyor image. This was taken back in November during the winter of 2001. So this is 24 years old. This is a very old Mars image. I originally became aware of this from Richard Hoagland. I'm sure the audience, they all know Richard Hoagland. He had a discussion board back in the day, and then which he launched in the 1990s, which was the Enterprise mission. And we had talked about this on his discussion board when it first came out. We all saw this. We thought it was very interesting. We saw the square shape of it, very symmetrical. And there were so many other things that we were looking at the time. This kind of got pushed aside. A lot of people at the time, back in the early 2000s, were aware of this. And this kind of got forgotten until this all went viral with Joe Rogan, the #1 podcast. He had this on his show. There's Joe. And he said this thing was effing wild. And a lot of other things. He likes to use a lot of profanity. And he talked about this a couple shows, I think. He's got pictures of it there from the internet that they were just mesmerized by this. And this just went viral with somebody like Joe Rogan talking about this. It was all over the X platform. And he even had, if you go to the next slide, he had Elon Musk on there. And Elon got in on the discussion, and he actually said it's aliens, obviously. And he said that we need to send astronauts there to investigate. And of course, he's the one that's going to be instrumental in getting astronauts there. Yeah, this thing just blew wide open. And the next slide, of course, we had Tyson. He got involved in this. He doesn't want to be left out. And he's the real TV personality. He likes to come on and talk about things. And there's a video that I got this slide from where for 75% of the video, he diminishes any interest in this square and saying it's a product of pareidolia and it's really nothing. And then at the end, he goes around and says, I'm not really saying it's not interesting. And he says that it should be investigated. So even he thought this was bizarre. So that's basically the history of this. And I got involved with this when it came out because I was like trying to show people the history of this. There's a lot of images of this, and everybody was focusing on the original Mars Global Surveyor image. NASA's taken, I don't know, 8 to 10 different pictures of this. That's what got Bill and I, interested in putting this paper together.
Okay. And so I guess let's just go on to this next slide here. What are we looking at here?
This was NASA's response to the formation. They said it was caused by faulting. This is a tectonic fault here that they put up on a lot of the news reports showed this. They put links to it. And NASA straightened this right out. This is nothing. You can have corners found in nature. That's what they're trying to say. And this T-shaped thing here, the left side, that goes on pretty long. This is just a corner of something. It's very arbitrary. Doesn't really prove anything. And Robert Schoch got involved. And we mentioned that this image is used actually in the paper. And he talks about how when this whole structure is found inside of a crater in the Arabia Terra area of Mars. And he said that, of course, when you get meteors hitting into the ground, it brings rocks up and stuff. And they don't usually come up into a square formation. And he says that the linear geometry of this shape is not caused by faulting. And he goes on in the paper to explain what it isn't.
And can we just explain who Robert Schoch is just real quick? He's a geologist from where?
I think he's up in Boston.
Yeah. The highly credentialed geologist. I
Oh,
guess
yeah.
that's what I'm trying to...
I originally became aware of him, Robert Schoch, during the Charlton Heston. He got a special about the Sphinx. I think this was back in, when was this? In the 1990s, maybe? I can't remember. It was a National Geographic special hosted by Charlton Heston. And they had Robert Schoch on there. And Robert was the first one to put out the idea that the Sphinx, all the erosion around the paws and the sides of the walls that this sits in, is all caused by water damage. And geologists and archaeologists, they were all shocked by this. They had never, even though they couldn't dispute the water damage around that, all of the erosion. So that's how Robert Schoch got his start. And he's written numerous papers. He's been on all types of TV programs. He's been on Ancient Aliens. I've been on there myself. I never met him, Robert Schoch, until we were putting this paper together. And Bill and I'm the founder of the Sidonia Institute, and Bill is also one of the original members. Him and I put this group together. And we originally had a geologist, which was part of our group, that helped us write some of these. This is our 7th science paper. We lost our geologist, Michael Dale, a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, it was a shock to us. We didn't even know that he was ill or anything. And so he was when you write these papers, you have to have 2 geologists or 2 type of scientists that can participate in writing these papers for them to get peer reviewed. And I'm just an artist. They're not even going to consider me, even though some of these journals call me Dr. Haas.
Do they really?
Oh, yeah. When they send you the responses back, attention, Dr. Haas, but it's comical. But I'm up front that I'm not a scientist. I'm an artist. So we needed another geologist or some type of physicist or someone to work on this paper with us. And I'm pretty good friends with Cliff Dunning. He runs the Earth Ancients
Great podcast.
Yes. So I know Cliff has a lot of people on his show. He's had geologists on. So I sent him an email. I said, hey, Cliff, Bill and I are wanting to write this paper about this square formation that everybody's talking about. And there's been no scientific analysis of this for 24 years. Although there was a paper that was put out, it's mentioned in the paper, I think 2020, 21 or something was a paper out. Got no attention really, not to diminish his hard work, but these things are very hard to push through the mainstream if you're not a Joe Rogan. So I contacted Cliff. He immediately sent me Robert Schoch's email. I guess he had called him and said, was it okay to send me his email? I sent Robert, I call him Robert now. I sent Robert an email telling him about the paper. And 3 days went by. He never got back to me. And he sends me an email. He reviewed the paper. He added a whole geological section to the paper, and he put his name on the paper.
Wow. Very cool.
I was like walking on air. I was like, oh my God, Robert Schoch's part of our paper.
That's very cool.
Just like that. And it all happened in a window where he was getting ready to go to Peru. So he had a week to do nothing. It just happened that when I sent him the email, he had the time to do it. He did it. And he said, he gave us the Journal of Astrobiology. He figured we could send it to them. A lot of the journals now charge all kinds of monies, even a lot of these online journals.
Really?
Oh, Bill and I had 2 papers published in the Journal of Scientific Exploration, and it's an academic journal, and it's well respected, it's peer reviewed, and we were going to submit this paper to them, and they wanted $250 to submit it. They'd never charged in the past, but a lot of it because of the price of everything. So this one was no charge, and it's a free journal. People can go online. I can provide links to it. So we got Robert to participate. We submitted the paper, and within a week we were accepted. They did the peer review for, 2 or 3 weeks back and forth. They changed the title of the paper. They had to add a few other things in, and it was done. And it just came out, I think, in June. So it's brand new. We're very excited about it.
Yeah, I'm going to put a link for it below. Everyone should go check it out. It is really fascinating. But
so that's how all this came together. And this is the Journal of Astrobiology, or Journal of Astro. There's another journal called the Journal of Astrobiology. So if the listeners are trying to look for that, it's just a different spelling.
Okay, so this is where it was posted.
And this is basically just a copy of the paper. If they want all out there, write it down. You just go online, you type in Mars geological formation or archaeology, square-shaped structure within the Arabia Terrace crater, the paper will come up. And the website from the journal, it's free.
Okay, perfect.
And so you don't have permission to look at it.
Okay, perfect. All right, so this is the area that we're talking about. This is Arabia Terra?
Yes. Just to give the audience an idea where this is on the planet while we're talking here. I don't know if is my cursor working on the image? I see it on mine.
No, so I can put it on there, or you can use notation tools.
You see where the little dot is?
Here?
The little white dot? Yeah. You just went past it.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, that's where Arabia Terra is. There you go. Now, to the left of that, where the green area is, this is a MOLA map from NASA. No, that's right next to it, not that one.
Okay.
Yeah, right there. Right along that shoreline, all that blue area is where the water would be on Mars. Okay.
Okay.
So right where you're putting that little line in, that's where Cydonia is.
Okay.
The famous face on Mars and the D&M pyramid and all that stuff. So it's almost directly in line. And we're finding a lot of these structures that we're finding on Mars are within 30 to 40 degrees above or below the equator.
Okay.
Now, the face on Mars is like around 40.
Mm-hmm.
And this one's pretty similar with the longitude and latitudes. Yeah. And I talk about that in my book, The Great Architects of Mars, that a lot of these are found in that area, all around the shorelines and things like that. So it's pretty interesting. So that's where this structure is. And if we go to the next slide, this is the Mars global surveyor image that, Joe Rogan was talking about and making the rounds on the internet. And all I did here was just put a light outline, but you can see it's pretty much easy.
It looks like a square.
It looks like 4 corners. You got the square, and all of the debris and silt and sand is all covering some of the edges over. But you can basically see that this is a formation. Now, the interesting thing, the corner down there is the corner, the top and the bottom corners, north and south, are 90-degree angles.
You showed that or maybe it was on the slide. You showed it was north and south, right? Orthogonally placed.
This is north and south, yes, we'll get to that later.
Okay. All right.
The significance of how these are, the orientation. This is the Mars Reconnaissance high-rise image. This one was taken in 2018. So this is the highest resolution possible of taking this. And you can see it's still there.
Can I ask you a question, George?
Sure.
This looks like it's like on top of a plateau or something. Is this, how high is this?
Yeah, it's a huge crater. This is just one section of inside the crater. That white area at the bottom, that's a ridge line. That the bottom part of this square is on the corner of a ridge. It's like a cliff. It goes right down that white area. That's all. And you see the winding, there's probably water there at one time. Yeah, right there. This whole area down there where your pen is, that was probably water. So this structure was sitting right on the corner of a river.
Okay.
Very defensive posture.
Let's just say this is artificial for a second here. And if people were able to view out there, you'd probably have one hell of a view.
Oh, yeah.
From up there.
Yep. And the square is similar. It's close to the rim of the crater. I don't have any slides of that here, but so it's pretty amazing. And yeah, it would be very defensive type of architecture here for this square and way it's sitting on the ridge.
And how big is the crater that this thing is on the edge of?
I don't know the exact size, but the square formation is a mile across.
Right, like
So it's about a mile.
1.61
Yeah,
kilometers by
yeah, it's
1.61
just
kilometers.
just about a mile across each way. So it's pretty
Wow.
big.
Wild.
This is the structure with the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter picture. The square looks a little off, but at times the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter camera takes things depending on the angle and the nadar. So it's a little obscure. So it looks a little bit more rectangular here, but the shape is there.
Do you know about how many different photos it took of this structure or this area?
They took the one Mars Global Surveyor image, and then they didn't take anything until, I don't know, almost 8 or 9 years later. They started taking with the Mars Reconnaissance CTX camera, which is the context camera. And altogether, including this high resolution image, there's probably about 10. So there's a lot of images, which is nice because you can look at the structure at different times a year, under different resolutions, under different lighting, different angles of the camera. So that all adds to the science, which we have in the paper. We used, I think, 4 different images that we compared different times a year, and the structure was still consistent.
Okay. Fascinating.
This is the only other science that was done with this. This is a paper by Stephen, and it was called Evidence of Alien Activity on Mars. And this was published in a free online journal called the Journal of Science, and is the General Science Journal. And this was back in 2021. I didn't even know about this until all the commotion about the square formation. I started doing web searches to see if there's any scientific analysis of this. And this is the only paper. We use his quotes in the paper. And I think if you go to the next slide, this is from his paper where he's looking at all the interior structures that are inside this square, and he's showing how they're all lined up.
Right. And so he showed some.
And we didn't use this in our paper because I couldn't really reproduce what he was doing here. He used some type of enhancement formation that I don't have. I don't have the process. This is what he came up with. And I figured, just for the sake of having these discussions on the internet, it's interesting to look at. But if you go look at his paper, he goes into all of the detail about how he found these alignments. And they're very interesting.
And you also cited, I think, Dr. Mark Carlotto's work as well in your paper. He's somebody that we just had on last week.
You?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, I know he has a new book out.
I think on crustal displacement. And he's making an argument in that book, I think, for ancient stone alignments, crustal displacement. And I think he covers Atlantis a little bit as well. We talked a little bit about that. We started off the conversation with Cydonia and the face, because I was interested in some of his geometric work in his paper that he wrote on the symmetry of the face, the 3, 4, 5 right triangles. I thought that was really interesting. So I wanted to get him on to talk about that.
And you've also done some work yourself on the geometry of the face. And I think that's why Brian Dobbs contacted you.
Yep. Yeah. So Brian contacted me. He wanted to get my input on an idea that really he had that re-highlighted a little bit of Dr. Carlotto's work as well, which was fascinating. I'll let Brian release that when he's ready. But yeah, I hooked up.
I didn't mean to mention. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I don't know if he cares or not. We talked about it a little bit with Dr. Carlotto because he does cite a little bit of that in his paper, I think from 2001, on the symmetry and the 3, 4, 5 right triangles that seem to be encoded in the face on Mars, which is something that would be a sign of intelligence if you were to do that. But we could talk about that later. But this next slide I find really interesting because now you're starting to make connections with points. You're showing a rectangular structure and it looks like a parallelogram structure over there on the right. So can you tell people what are these other things we're looking at?
Yeah, when I got the larger image, because a lot of people don't even pay attention to these other structures around because they're all focused on this big square. But if you look at the whole thing, you notice on the far right, which would be the eastern side, you have the small GHI, those little mounds there. Yep. Those are 4 almost circular mounds, and they're aligned in a square configuration, which is very interesting. So you have the square, you have a small square with the 4 posts of the mounds. And then in the lower left, the large letter EFGH, that is a rectangular shape that there's lots of images of this. This this formation or this image doesn't really show it as well, but I think we have it in the paper. It's all dark around the rectangle as if you can see seeps coming out, which people talk about on the internet, like evidence of possible water seeping out of these surface areas. A lot of this you'll see in sides of cliffs and things. Also, below the line there, the lower southern corner, the C and D corner, and some images in that lower area below that, you see seeps coming out of the surface around there. Exactly. And those pictures of those, but I didn't have them in this presentation. But what's important here is the quadrilateral structures. There's 3 of them. Now, the interesting thing about this is that if you saw 2 squares, that might be a coincidence, but 3, we're seeing a pattern here.
And the lowercase FGHI over here, is this centered on this side, AD? I wonder.
In some of the images, it's a little further away. It depends on the camera angle.
Okay.
How taking it. I think one of the images in the paper, I can't remember which one it is now. It's like directly overhead. It's like the skew is only 0.01%. It's almost directly overhead the nadar. But a lot of these it's all in the paper, how far off center these are. So you get a little distortion sometimes, so it's hard to measure.
The orbiter's not taking it directly overhead. Sometimes it's a little bit to one side or the other.
Yes. And sometimes these are big strips. So the camera may be overhead in a section of the strip, but not this area.
Got it. Okay. All right. What are we looking at here?
Now, this is the work of Carlotto. He had found this square formation in the Cydonia area. This is in Cydonia, but it's where the famous face on Mars and the D&M pyramid. It's just pretty far down from that. It's out of that whole complex, but it's still in the Cydonia area. In one of these long strips, he found this strange area. On the left, you can actually see the imprint. It's just a weird square. And he did a whole paper on this back in 2002. And I just thought this was interesting that finding squares are very hard to find in nature. He found this one. And again, this has the north to south orientation. The top corner is north and it's like a diamond shape. It's not set in a north to south from one of the sides. It's the corners.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah. It seems to be a tradition, as we'll see later, when some terrestrial comparisons, that this seems to be the way the great architects of Mars were doing it.
Okay, what do we have here? This is in Ohio.
Yeah, this is an American Indian mound. Part of it's been deteriorated, where they have the little etching parts there, and that part's been, I guess, eroded or plowed over by some Westerners ripping up the mounds. So this is, again, another square. This is mound formed by all these little linear mounds. And again, this is in that north to south orientation, which is very interesting.
Very interesting. My friend Jeff Wilson, who I'm not sure if you're familiar with, he actually lives right next door to Serpent Mound in Ohio, but he is quite the expert in all these ancient Native American burial mounds. So I'm sure he would be aware of this one. I'm going to ask him about that one. Okay.
This example is not in the paper, but it's just another example of a north to south orientation square. This is highly eroded. The reason I put this here is to show people that there's rectangular shaped or square shaped foundations of buildings that are left. This is an ancient ruin that's found in Afghanistan. And as you can see, the whole southwestern wall is just almost gone.
Right.
Just like we're seeing on Mars. It's just a comparison to show that we have things on Earth that are highly eroded.
Right. Okay.
This one I really like. This is in Honduras. This is an ancient Maya structure. And this is interesting because this square is built right on the ridge of where a waterway is. So we're having on Mars, the same thing. That's on the edge of a cliff. And I just did a little outline showing this was found with LiDAR.
So somebody found this with LiDAR, and then they sent an expedition out and actually confirmed that this is an actual site.
Oh, yeah. But this is the great white city that they think that some of the Spanish explorers talked about. And above this square, which I don't have in this image, is other structures that are above this. This is a whole complex area. So this is just very interesting. And I think it makes a great comparison to what we're looking on at Mars.
I was just about to say that because here you have something on the edge of another sort of looking down into a water area. And it's the same thing that they're doing on this structure that you found here in Mars with the square. So I think this is a great example.
Yeah. And the lower western portion of it's pretty eroded away, but it's a great example, I think. And it really brings the message home. Now, the audience might be wondering, what's this north-south idea? Where does this come from? And if we go to the next slide, this is the defensive design of Masada. This is over in Israel. This is where the Romans attacked the Jews when they were occupying this Masada. And as you notice, the corner of the whole complex is right on the edge of a cliff. It's very defensive.
Very interesting. Yeah. You would want to funnel your enemy to a place where you could defend easily.
And if the audience is interested in more of these defensive structures, my book, The Great Architects of Mars, a lot of these formations we're finding on Mars have this defensive design.
Like the shield you found, the shield structure?
The shield, the star forts, and all that stuff. They're very interesting finding all these types of things. Going along with Dr. Brandenburg talking about this great war that happened on Mars. So it makes sense that you would find these things. Now, this is the District of Columbia. This is the big diamond-shaped square that was the original boundaries of Washington, D.C. And they had, I don't know how many markers that went around into the areas to outline this area. But again, this is a north to south boundary lines of the District of Columbia. Very interesting.
Wow.
As above, so below. We're finding these same things on Earth, and they're on Mars.
Yeah, absolutely. That it's so important that you make these connections to stuff that we have here on planet Earth that are real, that we know. And you have these aerial photos that look down on these things that if you just looked at that photo, you'd be like, I don't know. But then you go and you're like, oh no, there's actually something there. We've been there.
Yeah. So you have to do that for the audience, because a lot of people I spend a lot of time trying to find these comparisons. But if you don't have something to compare these structures on Mars to, people just dismiss it. Speaking of dismissing things, this guy here, Douglas Van Koch, he had done a lot of research. This book came out in 2014, nothing to do with me. And he got together a bunch of geologists, archaeologists, anthropologists, and scientists from NASA, scientists from SETI. So this was a big group that he got together. And this is almost like when they put the work together when they started NASA. They wanted to get the idea of what we find in outer space. So he got this whole community together, and their task was identifying artificial structures on another planet. How would we identify them? He called them markers. What would the markers be to find structures on another planet? And the conclusion of all these scientists was that they would not be able to recognize structures on another planet because they would look too much like the natural formations.
Interesting.
That's strange.
That is strange.
Yep.
Huh. But they would look too much because they would be so much older and they would be deteriorated? Or what's their logic behind that?
That, and like just looking at the square formation on Mars, which it's not perfectly square because there's parts missing because it was eroded. But if you found that on Earth, like they did in the White City, you could go there and see it with the LiDAR and then go do ground proof, go over there and say, oh yes, this really does exist. So we've done that here on Earth. But to do that on Mars, to find things that kind of look like the square that we're looking at now, that's not complete, it's a little eroded, it's covered with silt and dirt and ice and all kinds of things. We'd have to go, like Elon Musk said, we need to go there and see if this is really a structure, but that's expensive and we can only speculate. And what this study was that he wanted to see if, looking at aerial photographs, if scientists could discern between artificial structures on an unknown world and what we're finding here on Earth. And a lot of these scientists, there's the left brain, right brain problem where there's academics, they see one way, they're just looking at the rocks. And then, of course, you got the more creative brain. They're looking at things and seeing patterns that most people don't see. Like myself, being an artist, I see things a little differently. I can see pattern like these three shapes that we're seeing around the square shape on Mars. That's the problem. And more academics, like always use his example. Dr. Brandenburg, he talks about your academic scientists, your geologists and things like that. They're looking at the geology. You could show them a picture of formation on Mars that had a lizard sitting on the rock. They'd want to knock that lizard off so they could get a better look at that rock. See what that rock's made of. Like things right in front of them, they don't even see it. Get that lizard off. I want to see more closely what that rock is. And then I'll tell you if there's life on Mars.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny, but I think it's pretty close to reality.
Yeah. It definitely seems like there's there's either these blinders on, or there's an unwillingness to just look at the evidence for what it is, because there's a tremendous amount of evidence. We're just going through one structure right here.
And
You mentioned
this is a very poor example.
there's much better, and there's a lot of it. And when Brian's documentary comes out, I highly recommend everybody go watch it when it does come out. I think he's struck a deal with Amazon, but he's compiled all these different pieces of the puzzle into one very entertaining, consumable documentary. And I think he filled a need there, that people that they hear a little sound bite there, they see this on the internet there, and it leaves them. But when you start putting all of this stuff together, you're like, oh, we need to get boots on the ground there to really do an archaeological dig and explore this stuff, because there's compelling evidence to support there's something going on here.
Oh yeah. And I got tons of evidence. My book is full of smoking guns.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is so crazy. Okay, so here we are with another image of the area. And what do we want to point out here? The little white dot over on the right?
White dot on the far west. Yeah, right there. This is Atlantis chaos. This is the famous area. This is also mentioned in my book. The area that has all the grid city with all the grid formations, which looks very artificial. And there's all the little structures in there and all kinds of formations. And I compare those all to the gridded adobes that you find over in Saudi Arabia and things like that. This is right next to that. So let's go to the next slide. Not far from the Atlantis chaos, which we call the Martian Atlantis area, where we have this grid city. This is a square structure. Now, this one's not north to south, but you have a square formation with a circular dome in the middle.
This one right here, right?
Yep. And then there's the dome in the middle.
Right.
Very geometric. And
very
if you go
interesting.
to the next slide, I have that all worked out for you, so you don't have to use your pencil.
Okay, got it here.
Too far. There we go.
Perfect.
So again, very artificial. This one has a lot more established linear formation than the square that we're talking about in the paper. But this is just another structure on Mars that needs attention. And it's not far from the grid city. You have a square imprint with a circular dome in the middle.
Yeah.
How does this get formed naturally?
Yeah, I'm not a geologist, but that is weird. All of these are weird, but that's like, to me,
have you seen this before?
This is the first time I'm seeing this one. But that one's pretty wild, if I have to say. Because here you have 4 sides. They look about to be the same length each.
Yeah.
We look 90-degree angles, and then you have this sort of blob in the middle that's, what is that? How does that get formed naturally? That seems weird.
Yeah, very weird. And we again have terrestrial examples.
Okay.
American Indians, circles with squares in the middle.
Okay.
The Freemasons, they have the compass and square. The compass makes circles. The L square makes squares.
Right.
That's the opposites. Circle and square are duality. You have the opposites. So we're dealing with symbolism here. You got opposites, duality.
We've covered circling the square we covered circling the square on this podcast quite a bit when we started this journey. And that seems to come up over and over again in all these ancient sites. And it's exactly what you said. It seems to be comparing this duality between the left and right brained, the masculine, the feminine, this duality.
Yeah. And we're finding a lot of stuff on Mars with the geoglyphs and things, a lot of duality we're finding. Serpents and birds. It's the serpents are on the ground, birds are in the sky. It's the duality.
And this one here, Pike County, Ohio. Is this another?
Again, that's Ohio.
Mound?
Yep. Excuse me?
So this is another mound?
Another American Indian mound in Ohio, yes. You want to find there's mounds all over in Ohio. I don't know if this one is in existence anymore. A lot of them have been destroyed, but thank God the early researchers went out and mapped all these, and we do have that to look at. And as all these examples of the Midwest, Ohio, Wisconsin, they were just full of these American Indian mounds.
Oh, yeah.
Which weren't all built by the American Indians. Some of them were, the more geometric ones were there before the American Indians. The later cultures did a lot of the pictographs of the bears and the birds and things like that. But this early stuff was like Newark. Those are very highly geometric. Those were done by a very early culture that we don't even know who they were.
Another thing is like a lot of these stuffs usually are found like in impact craters. Like I know Serpent Mound is found in an impact crater, which is...
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. Exactly. Because they have a lot of energy.
Right.
Yeah,
It
a lot
seems
of
like
people
there's
don't
like
know that
minerals that get deposited there.
the Serpent Mound is in the remnants of a crater. Yeah, good point. That's why he runs a podcast. He is sharp.
All right. So where's this one? Is this one done with LiDAR in the Amazon?
Yep, this is one of the ones that they're finding in the Amazon. It's an anomaly. The whole thing, it's just flies in the face of everybody's idea of what went on in the Amazon. In the 80s, you had all these people save the Amazon. They're cutting the trees down. They're planting grass and putting cattle. And it's always been an Amazon. Where's the jungle? You're killing. Now they find out that before the jungle was there, they had all this culture living there, building all these geoglyphs that are under the canopy of the jungle.
Yeah, they're finding so many geometric structures in the Amazon. I don't know if you've watched Graham Hancock's season 2 of Ancient Apocalypse, but they spent a good amount of time in the Amazon with LiDAR. They're finding it all over the place there.
Matt, a lot of these were found before the LiDAR because they were cutting trees down to bring cattle in to raise beef. And they're cutting the trees down and they're finding the fields covered with these odd, weird shapes. And then they send a drone up and take some pictures, and there's like squares, rectangles, all kinds of geometric shapes. These were all hidden in the Amazon jungle.
Yeah, so wild. So wild. All right, where's this one? Australia?
This is an odd formation that's out in Australia, another square and circle.
Interesting. Another mound.
Yep.
Okay, so now you're taking us to the upper left-hand corner here. What is this area called?
Oh, yeah, this is Quran. This, again, you see it's very next to the green area, next to the water. So this is another shoreline culture. Now, this area is probably going to be in my next book, The Great Architects of Mars, Part 2. There's 3 chapters worth of stuff over here. But what I picked this one out from because it's more of another type of foundation. You have the square foundation, and this is another foundation, but it's not square. It just shows that the planet's full of these ruins. So let's move on to the next slide so the audience can see what it looks like.
Okay.
Yeah, right there in the center.
Okay.
You see the linear line in the center. And it's the guy that found this is Greg Orm. He's a member of the Society for Planetary Study Research. And he said this looks like a slice of toast, piece of toast.
Wow.
So that's what he called it. But if you go to the next slide, you can see the geometry of this thing. It's amazing. It almost looks like that spooky monster from the, what was the, God,
Can I say something real quick, George? Sure. If this is artificial, this looks like it's been sectioned off by the golden ratio. I don't know if anybody's done any work by that, like a golden.
Well, I'm going to have you look at it. Yeah. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
It does look like that, based that it's off-centered like that. I'm wondering if that's the case. It'd be hard to get it exact because this is obviously eroded, but you could take a look at that and make a case.
He looks like the spooky guy from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
That's what the first thing I thought when I saw him.
Oh, yeah.
With
Interesting.
his eye up there on the left. Yeah, this is a foundation. Now, the next slide's going to blow them away when they see that.
Okay.
That's on Earth. That's Earth, and that was found in Russia. It's an old ruin that they did an excavation, I think, back in the 90s. And it's pretty similar.
That is bizarre.
Isn't that weird?
That's weird. That one looks like that.
Now, are you seeing the 3 dimensions of the Martian picture? Because a lot of people, sometimes they see the bar and it's like recessed, but that actually, it's coming out at you.
No, I can see how it's all raised. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, raised. Okay. So you're seeing it the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. It's bizarre.
Pretty amazing. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. It looks bizarrely similar to this structure on the left that we know is absolutely in Russia. It's just amazing that you found these things that are like aerial photos and you're like, look, we have examples. Like you could take a photo of something on Earth that we know exists, that we know is really ruins. And now we have these pictures to compare it with. And you're like, you got to go check this out. There's something going on here.
Yeah. I don't know how I come across these. It's somebody's guiding me for this stuff. I don't understand it at all.
Maybe it's your eye, your artistic eye for pattern.
Well, it's like, I'll be looking for something else on the internet. And then I'll come upon this and I go, that looks like a slice of bread that Greg Orme found. It's just, I'm not looking for that, but I have a good memory. And this man, and then I put them together and I go, God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And if you like this kind of stuff, my book is full of this.
Yeah, that's amazing. This is the book that you've written, The Great Architects of Mars. You have so many examples that we went through in our last podcast that are just, it's just wild. You see these structures on Mars and then you show like almost identical structures here on Earth. And you're like, there's something going on here. And it blows my mind that not more people are at least interested in this. Yeah, I don't know what's going on there either, but I do know that you have created a really amazing work here, curating these anomalous structures on Mars and making compelling case for the artificiality of it. And I know other people have contributed as well, but this is a great book you've done, George. George, is there anything else you want to leave us with?
If the audience out there, they're interested in reading this science paper, it's free. You don't have to pay for it. That's an online paper. I recommend download it, take a look at it, read it, go online, tell people what you think. If you think that this square formation is exciting, you haven't seen anything yet. Take a look at The Great Architects of Mars, the book. I didn't discover everything in here like Thomas Edison and Elon Musk, but I credit everybody, and I do a lot of more interesting analysis of these formations than the original discoverers. But it's all in there, and you can get the book on Amazon or any bookstore. I'm even available on Walmart website, which I can't believe.
Amazing.
We'll
put links for that
shoppers,
too.
you can get the book there. So it's everywhere. And I would recommend also, if you get the book, try to get the Kindle version, because the Kindle has all the high resolution images. You can zoom in on all the structures. The book just has your typical book printing of images from NASA. So I recommend getting both so you could have something to compare to. And I don't make a lot of money on this, but I want to get the word out. I probably have 5 or 6 more books in the can ready to go. So as long as this book does well, the publisher, I'm blessed to be with Bear and Company. They're very established. They're celebrating their 50 years this year, I think. So that's all I got.
Very cool. Thank you so much, George. This was another fascinating conversation. Look forward to more of your work coming out. And thanks everybody for watching. Cheers.
Thank you, Matt.